Have you ever considered that the fiercest battles aren't fought on battlefields, but in the hidden corners of our minds? 5 centuries ago, the brilliant Machiavelli unveiled this truth, asserting that a true ruler must first conquer themselves before contemplating the conquest of lands. Today, we'll peel back the curtain on how this ancient wisdom can make you mentally invincible in the complexities of the modern world. But be prepared. What you're about to learn might completely overturn your understanding of freedom and control. For the main enemy, perhaps, lurks far closer than you think, and its chains are stronger than steel. And what if I told you that the path to your true power lies through the most unexpected act, the voluntary relinquishment of what you believe makes you human? Get ready, because after this story, your life may never be the same. The vast majority of people drift through existence like voluntary slaves. They are shackled by others' judgments, tormented by phantom fears, and enslaved by insecurity that, like weeds, grows wildly in the neglected garden of their minds. Their entire lives are spent reacting to the world rather than actively creating it. They seem to be frozen, awaiting permission to act, a blessing for their own thoughts, confirmation of their right to exist. However, there is another path, the path of the inner ruler, the way of those who transform their minds into an impregnable fortress and simultaneously a surgically precise instrument. In the coming minutes, you won't be offered cheap motivation or superficial advice. You will receive a meticulously crafted map for achieving absolute mental sovereignty, a practical guide based on Niccolo Machiavelli's profoundest principles, expertly adapted to the challenges of the 21st century. If your soul is ready to reject the victim mentality and embrace the power of a born strategist, then this text is for you. If, however, you remain content with the role of an insignificant pawn on someone else's chessboard, then perhaps this isn't the place for you. The first prison you must dismantle is invisible. It is woven from an all-consuming need for approval, the chilling fear of rejection, and debilitating emotional dependence on others. These chains are far stronger than steel, for you often don't even realize you're wearing them. Look around. How many people do you know who change their beliefs based solely on what others might think? How many of your loved ones choose career paths, personal relationships, or even styles of dress based on external approval? How many times have you yourself uttered words you didn't believe, merely to avoid conflict? Each time you act in search of approval, you voluntarily hand over the reins of your life to others, becoming predictable, and predictable people, alas, are easily manipulated. Machiavelli, a keen observer of human nature, emphasized that the most vulnerable rulers were those who made decisions based on what the populace wanted to hear, rather than what was vitally necessary to undertake. They fatally confused popularity with true power, fleeting approval with genuine respect, and were typically destroyed by their own weakness, like waves of a relentless tide. A sovereign mind operates entirely differently. It analyzes situations, makes decisions, and acts based on internal principles, rather than external pressure or the fleeting desires of the crowd. This by no means implies becoming heartless or cruel. It signifies attaining true freedom. How then can you cultivate this precious mental freedom? Start with a small but significant step. In your next conversation, express your true opinion, even if it's unpopular. When someone tries to manipulate you using approval or disapproval, firmly maintain your stance. When they realize they cannot control you with either praise or criticism, something fundamental will shift in the dynamic of your relationships. Freedom often frightens people, for it mercilessly exposes their own confinement. They will inevitably try to drag you back to their level, labeling you as arrogant, insensitive, or difficult. Smile at them and continue on your path. Every attempt to label you is merely undeniable proof that you are moving in the right direction. Remember, the first and most crucial victory is not over the external world. It is a triumph over the inner world. When you eliminate your need for acceptance, that is when the true capacity to be respected is born. The difference between predator and prey lies not in physical strength, but in mentality. Prey live in a state of constant readiness for threats, always on the defensive, always merely reacting to events. The predator, however, observes, meticulously plans, and acts at the most opportune moment with imperturbable composure. Most people, unfortunately, have developed a prey mentality. They wake up with the anxious thought, what could go wrong today? They go to important meetings wondering, will they like me? They start new projects, tormented by doubts. What if I fail? This is the voice of the prey, a mind conditioned only to react, never to truly act. Machiavelli deeply despised such a mentality, for it makes you vulnerable to anyone willing to take the initiative. While you hesitate, others advance. While you ask for permission, others seize key positions. While you are paralyzed by the fear of judgment, others are actively shaping the reality around them. Perhaps if these principles had been known to him earlier, his path would have unfolded differently. Or on the contrary, he might have realized his strength sooner and avoided many traps, saving both himself and those dear to him. What do you think? Did he have a chance to change everything? Or was the ending predetermined from the start? Write in the comments at what point in your opinion he definitively strayed from the path of true power. If this story resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas where the price of glory is too high, subscribe to the channel. They say that thoughts shape reality. But what if I told you there's another way? A path that doesn't just shape, but seizes this reality, turns it inside out, and subordinates it. A path that distinguishes those who wait from those who act, those who lose from those who triumphantly hoist their trophy. This story isn't about simple truths, but about the harsh truth of life, the personal cost of every step, and secrets that can both elevate you to the peak and plunge you into the abyss. Are you ready to learn how some people become the puppet masters of their own destiny, while others are merely puppets in someone else's hands? Then prepare yourself, for what you are about to hear will forever change your perception of power and control. The hunter's mind operates entirely differently from ordinary consciousness. It doesn't agonize over what if something goes wrong, but instead asks itself, what if everything goes exactly as I planned? It doesn't search for hidden threats around every corner. Its gaze is fixed on finding opportunities that elude others. It doesn't waste time waiting for the ideal moment, for it creates it itself. This is by no means a call to recklessness or aggression. It is a call to strategic thinking. A true hunter is always calculated. They never act impulsively. Before making a move, they meticulously study the territory, identify subtle patterns that remain invisible to most, and when it's time to act, their decisions are characterized by astonishing precision. How then can one cultivate this hunter's mindset, this indomitable will to win? First and foremost, you must stop waiting for anyone's permission. If an idea sparks in your mind, immediately begin to develop it. If you see an opportunity before you, investigate it in minute detail without delay. If you encounter a problem, your task is to solve it. Action alone generates momentum. And this momentum, like a rising tide, in turn becomes a source of power. Second, train yourself to think 3 steps ahead. When someone makes a move, don't limit yourself to asking about its immediate significance. Ask yourself, what will this lead to in the long term? What new opportunities might this create? And most importantly, how can I best prepare to capitalize on it? Third, you must develop a resilience to calculated risk. The difference between a predator and its prey is not that one is fearless and the other is consumed by terror. The true difference is that the predator takes action despite fear, using it as fuel, while the prey is completely paralyzed by that very fear. When you begin to think like a hunter, those around you cannot help but notice. They will sense that you are no longer a passive observer, waiting for something to happen. On the contrary, you are making events unfold according to your script. This creates a natural, almost magnetic allure around you. People begin to gravitate towards you because you radiate confidence, clear direction, and an unwavering purpose. True power always remains invisible. Niccolo Machiavelli, the greatest strategist in history, grasp this truth better than anyone else. A ruler who openly displays all their intentions inevitably faces resistance. A warrior who flaunts their entire arsenal gives the enemy precious time to prepare. Most people make the fatal mistake of broadcasting every emotion, every plan, every reaction. They crave recognition for every action, believing that complete transparency is a virtue. In reality, they are simply handing over the map of their own destruction to others. Psychological invisibility is the highest mastery, the ability to fully control what exactly you reveal to the world. This is not about lying or deception, but about a conscious choice, what to show and when. It's the skill of becoming unreadable, so that others cannot manipulate you like pawns on a chessboard. Consider the boundless power of this ability. When others are consumed by rage, they explode with emotion, and everyone sees their vulnerability. When you feel rage, you show nothing. When others experience anxiety, they expose their insecurity. When you feel anxious, you remain imperturbable, like a rock. This does not mean becoming a fake or artificial person. It means becoming the absolute master of your own reactions. Every one of your expressions becomes a conscious choice, not an involuntary leakage of information. How then can this mastery be developed, elevated to its absolute peak? First, practice the pause. Between an external stimulus and your reaction, there is always an invisible space. It is in this space that your power of choice resides. When someone tries to provoke you, use this space. When you receive shocking news, use this space. When you feel a strong emotion, use this space to avoid succumbing to it. Second, develop several social masks, not false facades, but authentic versions of yourself that are perfectly suited for various situations. Your professional persona can differ radically from the one you display within your family, and that, in turn, may be quite unlike your social mask. Each of them is authentic, but each reveals only what is appropriate to reveal at that moment. Third, become a tireless investigator of others' reactions. Observe how people constantly give themselves away completely. Notice how they reveal their fears, innermost desires, and deep weaknesses, often without realizing it. Use this knowledge not to harm them, but to protect yourself in best position. Your piece in the complex game of life. Psychological invisibility creates an aura of mystery around you. And mystery, in turn, generates deep respect. When people are unable to fully decipher you, they stop trying to control you. When they don't know exactly how you will react, they approach you with much greater caution. Machiavelli, more than anyone, understood this game. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few understand who you really are. Master this distinction. Perhaps if each of us had understood these truths sooner, the world would have changed. Or perhaps the outcome would have been inevitable, regardless of our efforts. What do you think? Did those who failed to master this art have a chance to change everything? Or was their path predetermined from the start? Write in the comments at what point, in your opinion, a person definitively loses control over their destiny. If this story resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas and triumphs, subscribe to the channel. Here we speak of those whose glory was authentic, but the price was also too high. Prepare to uncover the secrets of great leaders whose names are forever etched in history. Their path was paved not by luck or talent, but by something far more powerful. Today we will reveal why some reach the pinnacle while others only gaze at it from afar. You will discover what lies behind the facade of success and why the greatest minds of the past believed that being respected was more important than being loved. But don't rush to conclusions, for the true meaning of these words runs far deeper than it seems. Prepare for revelations that could change your view of the world and yourselves. Stay with us until the end to understand how to forge an unyielding will and become the master of your own destiny. For at the finale awaits a shocking revelation about the price of true power. The difference between those who achieve their cherished goals and those who merely dwell in the clouds of dreams lies not in heaven-sent talents or the favor of fortune, but in an indomitable will, in the unwavering ability to keep moving forward, even when every fiber of your being screams for you to stop. Will, like a living organism, is akin to a muscle. It can be relentlessly strengthened through consistent, purposeful training, or it can irretrievably atrophy, sinking into the abyss of inaction. Alas, the vast majority of people allow their will to become flabby and weak, meekly yielding at the first hint of discomfort, like a fragile reed in a gust of wind. The great thinker Machiavelli astutely observed that the most powerful and influential leaders in human history were not necessarily distinguished by exceptional intellect or extraordinary gifts. No, these were the individuals who managed to develop a truly extraordinary ability to persistently overcome any adversities and trials. They tempered their will in the fiery crucible of difficulties until it transformed into an unbreakable steel fortress capable of withstanding any blows of fate. An unyielding will manifests itself in countless guises, like a multifaceted diamond. It is the inner strength that allows you to strictly adhere to a diet when everyone around you is carelessly enjoying tempting but unhealthy food. It is the iron discipline that forces you to rise at dawn for grueling workouts, while a warm and cozy bed so temptingly invites you to remain in its embrace. It is the unyielding perseverance to continue painstaking work on a project, even if visible results have not yet appeared, and the path to success seems hazy. However, an iron will extends far beyond mere personal discipline. It is the very ability to make truly difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions when everyone else around you is immersed in indecision and vacillation. It is the courage to unswervingly defend your position when everyone else yields to pressure and bows to another's will. It is an invisible, yet mighty inner strength that allows a person to remain standing when it seems the entire world around them is collapsing, burying all hopes under its debris. But how does one forge this unyielding will, transforming it into your unshakable core? First, begin your journey with small steps and be unfailingly consistent in your actions. Choose one simple but significant action that you commit to performing every day, regardless of how you feel or your mood. It could be anything: neatly making your bed, dedicating 5 minutes to morning meditation, or reading just one page of a captivating book. What matters is not so much the essence of the action itself, but the very process of training your will, its constant exercise. Second, deliberately and consciously put yourself in situations of controlled discomfort. Take a cold shower, feeling the invigorating chill. Periodically practice temporary food abstinence. Train yourself by pushing beyond your usual comfort zone, forcing yourself to overcome internal barriers. Each time you do something difficult, when you absolutely don't want to, you, like a blacksmith, forge and strengthen the muscle of your will, making it tougher and more resilient. Third, tirelessly practice saying no. A weak will seeking to avoid any conflict or unpleasantness often meekly says yes, yielding to others. A strong will, however, establishes clear, unbreakable boundaries and unswervingly adheres to them, regardless of any social pressure or external judgment. Fourth, develop tolerance for emotional pain. Life, with all its vicissitudes, will inevitably bring rejection, bitter failures, and deep disappointments. A weak will, confronted with the first adversity, crumbles like a house of cards. A strong will, on the contrary, uses pain as powerful fuel to become even stronger, even more resilient, even more unyielding. When your will achieves true unwavering strength, something astonishing happens, changing how others begin to perceive you. They intuitively sense an unwavering reliability, deep confidence, and inner fortitude within you. They know that you will unfailingly do what you promised, that you will keep your commitments, that you will not break under the weight of pressure, no matter how intense it may be. This reputation of inner, unyielding strength becomes one of your greatest and undeniable advantages. People begin to genuinely respect you not because you persistently demand that respect, but because you naturally radiate it through your consistent, deliberate actions, like an invisible aura. Machiavelli, the great thinker, left behind one of the most frequently misinterpreted statements in human history: "It is better to be feared than loved." Most people interpret this as a direct call for cruelty, for ruthlessness. but this is absolutely contrary to its true meaning. It is a call for such a strong, unyielding inner strength that no one would ever dare to test it. The fear that Machiavelli advocated is not animalistic terror. It is a deep, respectful acknowledgement of your ability to establish absolute, unbreakable boundaries. It is a silent recognition that you cannot be manipulated, you cannot be bribed with flattery or praise, and you certainly cannot be controlled through emotional blackmail. Think about the people you respect most in the world. They are likely not the most pleasant or amiable in conversation. Rather, they are those who radiate inner strength, absolute reliability, and the unyielding ability to make difficult, sometimes painful decisions when truly necessary. You may not always share their viewpoint or agree with their choices, but you undoubtedly respect their strength of character, their inner core. A healthy, respectful awe is born from the predictability of your reactions, from your consistency. People know precisely that if they cross certain, clearly defined boundaries, consequences will inevitably follow. Not out of malice or vindictiveness, but as a matter of principle. Not from anger, but out of necessity, according to the laws of justice. This unwavering predictability of your actions creates an invisible but palpable zone of profound respect around you. How can one instill such respectful awe without resorting to tyranny? First, establish clear and absolute boundaries. Decide for yourself what behavior you will tolerate and what you will not under any circumstances. Communicate these boundaries clearly and unambiguously just once. Then adhere to them strictly, allowing no exceptions. Perhaps if the hero of our story today had forged this iron will within himself, his fate would have turned out quite differently. Or conversely, it was precisely the lack of such will that led him to the dramatic turns we discussed. What do you think? Did he have a chance to change everything, or was the outcome predetermined before the journey even began? Write in the comments at what point, in your opinion, he completely lost control of his life. If this story, full of human trials and the pursuit of strength, resonates with you, please give us a like. And to not miss new dramas where we discuss those whose fame was genuine, but whose price was too high, subscribe to the channel. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the facade of the greatest achievements? What price is paid for true power, which cannot be seen but is felt by everyone? This is a story about those who do not seek fame but govern the world from the shadows. About those who understand the secrets of human nature and use them to weave their invisible web of influence. You will learn how the most powerful figures achieve their goals without uttering a word, without giving direct orders, and why their strength is far more formidable than any open confrontation. Prepare to discover a truth that will change your perception of leadership and control. At some point in everyone's life, there comes a moment when they realize the need for unconditional respect. But how does one earn it? The first, and perhaps most challenging, truth lies in absolute consistency. You must strictly adhere to your principles, allowing not a single exception. This unwavering firmness forms the granite foundation upon which true authority rests. But this is only the beginning. The second truth, carved in the stone of wisdom, states, never make empty threats. If your word has been spoken, it must be honored. If you have established a consequence, it must occur. Your promise is sacred and unquestionable. When those around you realize that you never bluff, they stop testing your boundaries. Their desire to challenge you vanishes like smoke. And what happens when someone dares to break the sacred bonds of trust? Third, the slightest display of disloyalty should be met with immediate detachment. There's no need to erupt in a blaze of anger or plot elaborate revenge. Simply withdraw your favor, your presence, your valuable cooperation. The absence of all that you could offer should be felt as an irreplaceable loss, a gaping void. The most striking and simultaneously most unsettling aspect is the ability to remain emotionally unperturbed. When passions rage around you and others cry out in frenzy, you maintain absolute composure. When panic grips them, you radiate unshakable stability. This icy calm under pressure inspires far greater awe than any display of brute force. This awe, born from greatness of spirit and strength of character, operates completely differently from fear based on cruelty. The latter only breeds deep resentment and ultimately leads to open rebellion. The former, however, creates strong, unbreakable loyalty, for people feel completely safe in your presence, under your invisible protection. When a person masters this ancient science, they cease to ask for respect. People offer it naturally as a priceless gift. They stop bargaining with their values, for others adapt to their unshakable standards. They stop justifying their decisions, as their inner authority speaks for itself, silently but convincingly. It's important to remember that the goal is not for everyone to fear you, but for those whose opinions truly matter to deeply respect you, and for those who might harm you to avoid you. This creates an invisible psychological force field that reliably protects your interests and projects your power without a single overt demonstration. But what is true power? It is something far more subtle than grand titles or brilliant regalia. True power does not require external symbols. It does not depend on positions, ranks, or public recognition. It is the remarkable ability to influence events and people so naturally and subtly that they don't even realize they are being swayed by you. Niccolo Machiavelli, a great thinker of past eras, once observed that the most effective rulers were often those who did not outwardly appear to be rulers at all. They governed through informal, moral authority rather than through formal office. They shaped the opinions of those around them without giving direct orders. They guided complex events while remaining behind the scenes in the shadows. Most people, unfortunately, chase mirages. What glitters on the surface? Promotions, public recognition, high social status. They yearn for everyone to see their successes, their importance, their ascent. But visible power is always vulnerable. It can be attacked, challenged, or taken away at any moment. Invisible power, however, is an entirely different phenomenon. It is influence that stems from undeniable competence, strong character, and a consistent, unwavering ability to make the uniquely correct decisions. People follow your leadership not because they are forced, but because they implicitly trust your judgment. How then do you forge this invisible armor that protects and elevates? First, become indispensable through your exceptional competence. Be the one who masterfully solves problems when others only create them. Be the one who offers elegant solutions when others merely complain. Be the one who remains calm when everyone else is gripped by panic. The second equally important step on this path is to build an impeccable reputation for absolute integrity. Your word must be your unbreakable guarantee. Your commitments must be sacred and your promises inviolable. When people know they can trust you completely, without a shadow of a doubt, they naturally begin to seek your guidance, like travelers searching for a lighthouse in a stormy sea. The third secret lies in the art of dialogue, in the ability to influence through questions rather than direct orders. Instead of telling people what to do, ask questions that subtly lead them to your desired conclusions. Allow them to believe they arrived at these ideas themselves. This magically eliminates any resistance and creates a deep emotional investment in the decisions made. The fourth principle is to position yourself not as a rival, but as a wise advisor. When others fiercely contend for positions, you offer them a new, unexpected perspective. When they argue over merits, you focus solely on concrete results. When they promote themselves, you promote effective solutions. And finally, the fifth, but by no means least important, lesson. Keep your triumphs in the shadows. Do not announce your successes. Do not seek public recognition. Let the results of your work speak for themselves, louder than any words. Power that needs to be proclaimed is fragile, like a house of cards. True power is felt, sensed by everyone, rather than declared at every corner. When all these threads weave together, when a person achieves mastery in the art of ruling without a crown, something extraordinary happens. People automatically begin to seek your opinion, turn to you in the most critical situations, and follow your guidance without waiting for your request. You stop fighting for positions because you naturally become the central figure. You stop seeking recognition because your influence is evident to everyone. You stop chasing power because it naturally emanates from your unparalleled competence and impeccable character. Consider what price is paid for such invisible yet all-powerful authority. Is the path to true influence always accompanied by solitude and the rejection of public recognition? Or perhaps it is precisely in this shadow that true greatness lies. Write in the comments which of these principles seemed the most difficult to implement and which was the most appealing. If this story about the architects of invisible power resonated with you, please give us a like. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new chapters about those who shaped history while remaining in the shadows. Introduction. Imagine a world where a single step separates you from triumph or utter collapse. A world where the most powerful empires crumbled not from external enemies, but from the internal impatience of their leaders. Today we will unveil the secrets of those who not only lived, but reigned for decades, while their competitors vanished into the abyss of oblivion in mere months. What distinguished these giants of thought? What allowed them to rise above others when others fell? We will delve into the innermost corners of human nature, where brilliant strategies are born and fatal errors are made. You will learn why haste is a luxury the weak cannot afford, and how one quality can become your ultimate superpower. Prepare for a journey that will change your perception of power, influence, and the price paid for greatness. In a world where the pursuit of instant results has captivated everyone's minds, patience rises to the status of a true superpower. While some squander their life force on thoughtless, impulsive urges, the true strategist, endowed with incredible patience, tirelessly observes, meticulously crafts plans, and acts only at that single opportune moment to achieve maximum effect from their efforts. Niccolo Machiavelli, the great thinker, carefully studied the fates of rulers, those who held power for decades and those who were swept from the historical stage in just a few months. He found that the fundamental difference between them lay not in intellectual depth or abundance of resources, but in the unique ability to think and act across different time horizons. Great strategists always played the long game, while their rivals, blinded by immediate goals, focused only on the next, immediate step. Impatience is a luxury the weak cannot afford. It pushes one to premature actions, reveals the most private intentions before their time is right, and causes one to miss invaluable opportunities that have not yet matured. Strategic patience, conversely, grants the ability to position oneself optimally for much greater gains at that crucial moment. This does not mean passivity or inaction. It is the art of deliberate and timely steps. A farmer doesn't simply scatter seeds and passively wait. He diligently prepares the soil, plants at an opportune time, carefully tends to the sprouts, and harvests only when the fruits are fully ripe. Every action he takes is part of a grander goal, like a finely tuned mechanism working towards overall success. How then can one cultivate this strategic patience, like a rare flower? First, you must learn to clearly separate what is within your control from what you cannot influence. Focus all your energy exclusively on the former. Perhaps the political climate is currently against your ideas, but rest assured it will inevitably change. The economic situation may be unfavorable for your endeavor now, but cycles always shift, bringing new perspectives. Second, develop an arsenal of plans operating on different timescales. Have clear goals for this week, this month, this year, and even for an entire decade. Your short-term actions should always serve your long-term strategies, never conflicting with them. Third, focus on creating sustainable systems rather than chasing fleeting, isolated events. A system of healthy habits holds far greater power than any, even the most extreme diet. A system of continuous learning surpasses the effectiveness of any single course. A system of genuine, sincere relationships is worth immeasurably more than any forced networking built on self-interest. Fourth, learn to value gradual but steady progress. Small, consistent improvements, accumulating over time, can lead to truly extraordinary results. Most people underestimate the heights they can reach in 5 years, while simultaneously overestimating their capabilities in 5 months. Fifth, cultivate tolerance for uncertainty within yourself. Like a wise captain, unafraid of fog. Not all situations will resolve quickly and simply. Some problems need time to mature before they can be effectively solved. Some opportunities are not yet ready to be seized. The ability to comfortably exist in a state of uncertainty is an unmistakable sign of deep strategic thinking. Strategic patience grants its possessor several undeniable competitive advantages. First, it allows for higher quality decision-making, as you are not under the burden of artificially imposed time constraints. Second, it opens up many more options for you, as you haven't burned bridges prematurely, leaving yourself avenues of retreat. Third, it provides the opportunity to accumulate resources, while others squander theirs on impulsive and ill-considered actions. When those around you begin to realize that you think and act on broader timescales, their respect for you changes, acquiring new depth. They recognize that you cannot be manipulated by momentary pressures or distracted by superficial, short-lived opportunities. They know your commitments are reliable because they have been thoroughly considered and weighed. No leader rules alone. Even the most competent individual always needs loyal allies, necessary resources, and reliable support. Machiavelli deeply understood the subtle art of forming, maintaining, and, if the situation demanded it, dissolving strategic alliances. Most people approach relationships from an emotional perspective. And with surprising carelessness, they make friends based on simple liking, maintain contacts out of habit, and expect unconditional loyalty without offering it in return. This naive approach makes them vulnerable to betrayals and severely limits their potential for influence. A Machiavellian strategist thinks about alliances far more subtly. Every relationship is evaluated from the perspective of mutual benefit, the reliability of all parties, and alignment with long-term interests. This does not mean cynicism or manipulation. It means realism and reciprocity, the foundation for true, lasting influence. Perhaps if these great strategists had succumbed to momentary impulses, their names today would be mere footnotes in history textbooks. Or conversely, if they had abandoned their grand plans, preserving only the present moment, would they have achieved the greatness attributed to them at all? What do you think? Did they have a chance to change everything if they had altered their principles? Or was the outcome of their path predetermined? Write in the comments at what point, in your opinion, patience becomes a decisive factor in a person's fate. If this story resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas and triumphs of those who dared to play the long game, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those whose fame was genuine, but whose price was too high. The air is filled with silence as the curtain falls on another drama of human destinies. But what if I told you that the greatest tragedies and triumphs are often not coincidental? That behind every rise and fall lies an invisible yet powerful force, the ability to weave a web of alliances and control one's own narrative? Imagine a person who seemingly had everything suddenly loses support at the most critical moment, or someone who was revered finds themselves at rock bottom because someone else masterfully rewrote their past. Today, we will delve into a world where trust is currency and words are weapons, where every decision determines not only your fate, but also how you will be remembered. Are you ready to uncover the secrets hidden behind the curtains of power and influence? Then stay with us until the very end, for the most intriguing revelation awaits you there. Reality, as is well known, favors reciprocity, especially when it comes to building a robust network of alliances. How then does one construct this unbreachable fortress of support? First, you must precisely identify those whose aspirations and goals naturally intertwine with your own. It's not necessary to harbor personal affection for every ally, but the foundation must be unshakable mutual trust and clear, tangible benefit for all parties involved in this intricate dance. Second, always, absolutely always, offer something of value before daring to ask for a favor. Become the architect of solutions, the bridge that connects people, the one who generously shares opportunities. Build an inexhaustible reservoir of goodwill by tirelessly taking consistent, thoughtful actions. Then, when the time comes that you require support, you can receive it without the slightest hesitation, knowing you have earned it. Third, maintain diversity within your network of allies. For different objectives require different types of support. Some will become your wise mentors, offering invaluable advice and life experience. Others will serve as colleagues, ready for productive collaboration. Still others will prove to be loyal subordinates, faithfully executing your directives. Diversify your network with the same meticulousness you apply to diversifying your investments. For in diversity lies strength. Fourth, never under any circumstances rely entirely on a single alliance. The great thinker Machiavelli warned against the danger of concentrating all power in the hands of one person or one group. Maintain a multitude of alternative options, numerous sources of support, and multiple paths to achieve your cherished goals, so as not to fall into the trap of dependency. Fifth, be absolutely impeccably reliable with your true allies and ruthless when it comes to betrayers. Loyalty must be rewarded generously and without delay, so that everyone sees that faithfulness is valued above all else. Betrayal, however, must lead to clear and definitive consequences, leaving no room for doubt. Your reputation in these two crucial aspects will determine the quality of all future alliances you forge. Sixth, maintain regular and genuine communication with your allies, not just when you need something. Relationships, much like living organisms, wither and atrophy without proper nourishment. Take the time to learn about changes in their lives, the new challenges they face, and the opportunities opening up for them. Show sincere interest in their successes, and it will pay off immensely. Wise and skillful management of alliances exponentially increases your personal power and influence. Instead of relying solely on your own abilities and limited resources, you gain the ability to leverage the power of your entire extensive network. Rather than facing difficulties alone, you can count on coordinated and comprehensive support. And then, when your reputation as a reliable and valuable ally is firmly established, something truly remarkable will happen. People will begin to approach you, seeking to form partnerships. New opportunities will emerge through your network, as if by magic. Problems will be resolved through these invaluable connections even before they become critical and threatening. Remember, the true goal is not to accumulate as many superficial contacts as possible, but to create a select yet strong group of true allies, those who trust you implicitly and whom you, in turn, can trust without hesitation. Quality always surpasses quantity, and the depth of relationships is more valuable than their breadth. Our entire reality, every aspect of it, is interpreted through the lens of narratives, through the stories we tell. The same situation can be perceived as a brilliant opportunity or an imminent threat, a resounding success or a bitter defeat, the embodiment of justice or blatant injustice. It all depends on the story that is told. About it, Machiavelli, more than anyone, understood that control over the narrative is as important, if not more so, than control over the facts. Most people, unfortunately, take a passive stance regarding the stories being told about them. They allow others to define their reputation, interpret their actions, and shape perceptions of their character. Then they are genuinely surprised when they are misunderstood or unfairly judged, not realizing that they themselves have relinquished control. A leader who follows Machiavelli's principles actively and consciously controls their personal narrative. This is achieved not through crude propaganda or desperate self-promotion, but through the careful management of how their actions are perceived and interpreted by others. How does one take control of their personal story, their own narrative? First, be absolutely consistent in your words and, more importantly, in your actions. Trust is the unbreakable foundation of any powerful narrative. If your words don't align with your actions, you instantly lose the right to shape how others will interpret your behavior. Second, actively and clearly define your values and principles. Don't wait for others to guess what truly matters to you. Communicate clearly and unequivocally, both through words and actions, what your standards, your priorities, and your boundaries are, so that no one can distort your true essence. Perhaps if these principles had been learned sooner, many tragic endings could have been rewritten. Or perhaps the price of success would not have been so high. Do you think it's possible to completely control your destiny by managing only the narrative and alliances? Or is there something more that determines our path? Write in the comments which of these principles you find most challenging to implement in real life. If this story made you think, please give it a like. And to not miss new chapters from the lives of those whose fame was real, but whose price was too high, subscribe to the channel. Silence, the whisper of shadows, and unspoken truths. What could be scarier? Perhaps what you discover about yourself when you are alone with your own thoughts. Or perhaps that fatal mistake that can destroy a carefully built reputation. Today, we will delve into a world where control over one's own story is not just an art, but survival. We will see how one wrong word, one ill-considered step can cost you everything, and why the ability to be silent and reflect has become the most precious luxury. Prepare to learn about the price paid by those who lose control over their destiny. Every person's life is a continuous narrative, and it is up to them alone to decide who will be its author. This is a story about how one day a person decides to take up the brush and paints to draw their own portrait, rather than letting others sketch caricatures. In this grand spectacle, where each day is a new act, there are key rules that allow one to remain the director of their own destiny. First, it is extremely important to clearly define your inner values, those unshakable principles that will serve as a compass in the stormy sea of existence. This is the foundation upon which an entire life is built, and it must be as solid as a rock. Just as a skilled architect first lays the groundwork, so too must an individual clearly understand their priorities and the boundaries they will never allow themselves to cross. For only when these internal coordinates are charted can one move forward confidently without losing their way. Second, the time comes when you must become the chronicler of your own life. Do not wait for others, perhaps with malicious intent, to tell your story for use. When faced with defeat, be the first to openly share the lessons learned, how wisdom emerged from the ashes of failure. When achieving triumph, do not hesitate to tell the story of the thorny path overcome to reach the summit. When making a difficult, sometimes controversial decision, be the first to explain the motives that guided you. For only in this way can you create an authentic, truthful image that cannot be distorted. Third, remember that people are creatures who think in images and stories, not dry facts. One well-told story about how you overcame difficulties, how you surpassed yourself, is worth an entire volume of resumes and lists of achievements. It comes alive in the listener's mind, eliciting resonance and understanding. It's like a living example that penetrates deep into the heart, where abstract data remains merely cold figures. Fourth, exercise wisdom in choosing your battles. Not every misinterpretation, not every barb requires an immediate response. Like an experienced commander who doesn't commit all their forces to every skirmish, but conserves them for decisive battles, you too must focus only on those narratives that can truly influence your vitally important goals. Otherwise, you risk wasting your energy on endless arguments, missing the main point. Fifth, cultivate a reputation for exceptional honesty, even if it sometimes seems disadvantageous. Acknowledge your missteps publicly, if necessary. Don't be afraid to say that others were right and you were wrong. This selective but profound honesty will become your most powerful asset when the time comes, and you need people to believe you on truly significant matters. It's like a reservoir of trust that accumulates over years, to one day become the decisive argument. Control over one's own story grants incredible power. First and foremost, it allows you to shape the expectations of others. If people know you as a meticulous person, they will be understanding of a rare delay. If you have established yourself as a straightforward individual, your frankness won't cause offense. Then it creates a filter through which all your actions are perceived. The same deed can be interpreted as unwavering resolve or mere stubbornness, and it all depends on what story about your character is already entrenched in people's minds. And finally, it provides the opportunity to recover more quickly from mistakes. If the overall narrative about you is one of competence and integrity, then a single misstep will be seen as an unfortunate exception, not as a rule confirming your inadequacy. When a person masterfully manages their story, they cease to be a passive victim of others' conjectures and become the true architect of their own reputation. People begin to see them through the lens they themselves have provided, rather than through their own distortions and preconceived notions. This is the ultimate art of self-definition. In our world where every moment is filled with a flood of information and constant distractions, the ability to remain alone with one's own reflections has become the rarest of treasures. Recall Machiavelli. He cultivated his deepest thoughts and insights into the nature of power and strategy during periods of forced solitude, when nothing hindered his concentration. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is pain. It is the absence of desired company, a lack of connection with others. Solitude, however, is a conscious choice, an intentional creation of mental space for deep reflection, for introspection. It is a luxury that not everyone can afford, or rather not everyone is willing to embrace. Many people avoid solitude because they fear confronting what they might discover when left alone with their thoughts. It's like meeting your own reflection in the mirror of the soul, where there's no room for pretense. But it is in this encounter with oneself, in this silent dialogue, that true inner strength is forged. Here, a person learns to be their own support. When you reach that degree of self-sufficiency where you are comfortable in your own company, you break free from the shackles of dependence on others. You no longer need to seek approval, entertainment, or meaning in the external world. You become truly free, relying on your inner core. So how does one develop this precious discipline of solitude? First, start small but regularly. Set aside periods of complete silence for yourself. Let it be just 15 minutes daily, without a phone, without music, without television, without conversation. Just you and your thoughts. Observe how at first it causes discomfort, how the mind resists, and then, gradually, this state begins to fill you with energy and clarity. Second, use these precious moments for deep, strategic reflection. Ask yourself those questions for which there is never time in the daily hustle and bustle. Where do I see myself in 5 years? What are my non-negotiable values, those principles from which I will never deviate? What negative behavioral patterns do I need to break to move forward? What opportunities am I missing, failing to notice them? Third, practice self-observation without judgment. Note your fears, your desires, your automatic reactions, and thought patterns as if you are an impartial scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. This objective perspective on oneself is the first step towards true self-regulation, towards the ability to control your life rather than being controlled by it. He retreated into this solitude to find answers, to understand himself. But perhaps it was there in the silence of his own thoughts that he encountered truths that proved too heavy. His story is a reminder that even the strongest can break under the weight of internal discoveries. What do you think truly lies hidden in the depths of our consciousness when the world around us falls silent? And is there a limit to what we are willing to learn about ourselves? Tell us in the comments if you are ready for such a solitary encounter. If this story made you think, please give it a like. And to not miss new dramas and destinies, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those whose fame was real, but whose price was too high. They say true power is born not in the crowd, but in silence. But what if that silence hides something far more sinister than mere peace? What if it is the key to controlling not only oneself, but entire worlds, and at times to the elimination of those who stand in the way? Today we will delve into the mysteries of solitude and conflict, learn how the great minds of the past used them to achieve their goals, and discover why some of them forever remained in the shadows, paying an unimaginable price for their triumphs. Prepare, for this story will redefine your understanding of power and solitude. This, in essence, is the beginning of true self-regulation, that invisible thread that connects an individual to their inner strength. Fourth, a person striving for greatness turns to solitude as a sanctuary for strategic planning. It is in such moments when they are alone that external noise fades, and deep analysis of the most complex situations becomes possible. Here, long-term plans are born, free from the pressure of time, and decisions are made whose roots lie in authentic values, not ephemeral social expectations. Fifth, to solidify these invaluable moments of solitude, the wise person develops personal rituals. Perhaps it's a leisurely walk at dawn when the world is still asleep, or an evening meditation delving into the depths of consciousness. Or maybe it's simply moments of silence with a cup of aromatic coffee when thoughts flow freely. The main thing is to create this sacred space for oneself, to which they regularly return to reconnect with themselves, as with an old but always welcome friend. Disciplined solitude grants an individual truly significant competitive advantages, becoming their invisible shield and sharp sword. First, their decisions gain unparalleled quality, for they are not distorted by social pressure or contrived urgency. These decisions are the fruit of a pure mind, unclouded by external influences. Second, the deepest self-knowledge blossoms within them. It allows them to navigate the labyrinths of the most complex situations with wisdom that seems almost supernatural. They know themselves, and therefore they know how to act. Third, this solitude forges in them unbreakable emotional resilience. When a person feels comfortable in their own company, the fear of rejection or isolation vanishes. And it is then that one of the most powerful tools of control that others use against them, the threat of social ostracism, loses all power, crumbling to dust. When a person achieves mastery in the art of solitude, they begin to radiate a distinctly different quality of presence. Those around them sense that they don't need others to feel whole and complete. This self-sufficiency is like a magnet, for it is incredibly rare in our world. Paradoxically, the less a person needs the company of others, the more strongly others are drawn to their presence, wishing to touch this enigmatic power. Conflict, like a relentless shadow, inevitably accompanies human life. The question is not whether one will encounter opposition, but how they will manage it when it suddenly arises in their path. Machiavelli, that great thinker, like a skilled anatomist, studied conflicts of all scales, from personal disagreements that break hearts to devastating wars between entire nations. He identified universal patterns like invisible threads that bind all these situations together. Most people, when faced with conflict, react emotionally and impulsively. When attacked, they respond in kind. When provoked, they erupt like a volcano. When threatened, they succumb to panic, losing all composure. This instinctive, at times animalistic, approach very rarely leads to favorable outcomes, most often merely needlessly exacerbating and escalating already tense situations. A strategist thinking like Machiavelli sees conflict not as chaos, but as complex geometry. Each situation presents itself with its angles, forces, pressure points, and countless possibilities for movement. Their goal is not always to crush the opponent with brute force. No, their true task is to find the most elegant and effective solution that preserves their fundamental interests, like precious treasures. But how can this geometric thinking be applied to the whirlwind of conflicts raging around us? First, always, before taking even a single step, carefully assess the situation. Like a chess player before a decisive move. Who are all the involved parties? What are their true, sometimes hidden interests? What invisible alliances have already formed? Where do their vulnerabilities lie, their Achilles' heels? A deep, comprehensive analysis often uncovers solutions that seem completely non-obvious, like hidden treasures. Second, you must very clearly define your authentic goals, separating them from those that merely appear to be so. Are you truly seeking to prove your point, or is your real goal to resolve the problem? Do you want to punish the opponent, or is your task to prevent future clashes? Clarity regarding your true priorities allows you to construct strategies possessing incredible elegance and precision. Third, consider a vast multitude of response options. The choice is rarely limited to just two extremes, attack or retreat. One can ignore, deflect, negotiate, form new alliances, change the very context of the conflict, or even completely redefine the problem. The more various options they see before them, the more power they gain over the situation. Fourth, time, like an invisible conductor, plays a decisive role. Sometimes the wisest response to a provocation is not to respond immediately. Allow emotions to subside like a storm gradually calming. Allow the provocateur to reveal themselves, exposing their true intentions. Fifth, always maintain open lines of communication, even with those who seem to be implacable adversaries. For today's enemy may well become tomorrow's ally when circumstances change. Thoughtless burning of bridges without extreme necessity merely limits your future possibilities, depriving you of valuable avenues of retreat or maneuver. Sixth, use the principle of minimum necessary force. There's no need to reach for a hammer when a well-chosen word can solve the problem. Unnecessary escalation of conflict creates permanent adversaries and squanders precious resources that may be needed for far more significant confrontations. So what truly lies behind this ability for solitude and the cold-blooded analysis of conflicts? Is this the path to true freedom or to voluntary isolation where a person, having achieved everything they desired, remains utterly alone? Perhaps those who dared to walk this path paid a price we don't even suspect. What do you think? Was this absolute power over themselves and the world worth what they ultimately lost? Write in the comments where, in your opinion, the fine line between self-sufficiency and complete alienation lies. If this story resonates with you, please give it a like. And to not miss new dramas where we talk about those whose fame was real, but whose price was too high, subscribe to the channel. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the facade of composure of great strategists? What allows them to see through the fog of emotions when others are blinded by rage? Today we will uncover the secrets of those who transform chaos into order and defeat into a springboard for new triumph. You will learn how ordinary people achieve incredible heights simply by changing their perspective on time and conflict. Prepare for a deep dive into a world where patience is a weapon and foresight is a shield. By the end of this story, a path to power that does not crumble under the pressure of circumstances will open before you, and you will understand why some destinies are predetermined for greatness, while others are for oblivion. When humanity faces challenges, it often seems that emotions take over, clouding judgment and leading to impulsive actions. But there is another path, one where conflict transforms from a raging storm into a carefully calculated game on a chessboard. This approach allows one not only to withstand pressure, but also to use it to their advantage, preserving precious energy for truly significant confrontations. A geometric perspective on conflict offers several undeniable advantages, as if opening secret doors to success. First, it allows an individual to maintain unwavering composure even in the most intense circumstances. This coolness, like an icy gaze, not only disarms opponents but also elicits deep admiration from those observing from the sidelines. Second, such an approach awakens creativity, making it possible to find solutions invisible to those blinded by strong emotions. While others flounder in an emotional abyss, the person who masters the geometry of conflict sees elegant exits from the most tangled situations. Third, it is a path to building a reputation as someone formidable yet fair. Those around them realize that such a person cannot be intimidated, but also understand that they will not escalate situations unnecessarily. This awareness, in turn, significantly reduces the number of potential confrontations, as anyone contemplating a provocation will think twice before issuing a challenge. When an individual achieves mastery in the geometry of conflict, situations that once seemed insurmountable suddenly become entirely manageable, as if disparate puzzle pieces click into place. The fear of direct confrontation vanishes, replaced by an unwavering confidence in one's own abilities, in the capacity to handle any threat. And this inner conviction, at times, serves as a powerful shield in itself, preventing conflicts even before they arise. The true value of any strategy is measured not by instant, dazzling success, but by its ability to withstand the test of time, maintaining its effectiveness for many years. The great thinker Machiavelli once warned that many commanders achieve brilliant victories that, alas, prove to be mere empty shells, for they lack the wisdom and strength to hold on to what they had conquered. The modern world is often obsessed with the thirst for immediate results. We crave quick fixes, instant achievements, miraculous overnight transformations. However, true power, the kind that is impervious to the winds of change, is built over decades, brick by brick, through a series of consistent and deliberate decisions, rather than through singular, albeit dazzling, strikes. Long-term thinking requires the development of certain skills that, unfortunately, remain inaccessible to most people. It demands the ability to sacrifice fleeting pleasures for significantly greater future benefits. It requires an unwavering commitment to principles, even when it involves inconvenience and hardship. Finally, it necessitates the creation of sustainable systems that continue to function regardless of momentary moods or transient personal motivation. How then can one cultivate this strategic, far-sighted view of time that allows one to see the future? First, always ask, how will this specific decision look 5 years from now? Many choices that seem incredibly appealing in the short term turn into a real disaster when viewed from a broader, long-term perspective. Second, it is essential to form habits that accumulate over time, much like small streams merging into a mighty river. Small but consistent actions, thanks to the power of compound interest, can lead to truly remarkable results. This principle applies to all areas of life: health, knowledge acquisition, relationship building, and of course, financial resource development. Third, continuously invest in your reputation, seeing it as the most valuable of all assets. A strong, impeccable reputation is built over decades of meticulous work and can be irrevocably destroyed in a single moment. Every decision made must pass through a strict filter. Does it strengthen my long-term reputation or conversely, weaken it? Fourth, develop fundamental competencies, those skills that remain consistently valuable, regardless of rapid technological or social changes. Qualities such as critical thinking, the ability for clear and persuasive communication, mastery in problem solving, and leadership skills will always be relevant and in demand. Fifth, build relationships that deepen and strengthen over time, like the mighty roots of an ancient tree. Superficial connections may bring immediate, fleeting benefits, but it is deep alliances, forged through years of mutual trust and support, that become truly invaluable during the harshest times of crisis. Sixth, maintain tactical flexibility within strategic consistency. Your methods and approaches may change depending on circumstances, but your core values and principles should remain unwavering. This harmonious combination allows you to adapt to any changes without losing your identity and core. A long-term time perspective grants enormous competitive advantages, as if unlocking access to a secret weapon. First, it enables decisions that others are simply incapable of making, as their view is narrowly focused solely on immediate results. Second, it develops a rare quality: patience, allowing one to await suitable opportunities instead of recklessly chasing every fleeting chance. Third, it cultivates incredible resilience to difficulties. When a person thinks in terms of decades, individual failures and defeats become mere minor episodes in the much grander story of their life. Fourth, it attracts people who also think long-term, thereby creating a network of more stable and reliable allies. When a person truly internalizes this profound time perspective, they stop living from one crisis to another, like a puppet on strings of circumstance. They cease reacting to every change as if it were the end of the world. Instead, a serenity takes hold in their soul, born from the realization that they are building something truly enduring, brick by brick, day by day. This story of strategy and patience, of coolness and foresight, it's not just a set of rules, it's a path to transforming your own destiny. When do you think a person truly begins to build their own life and not someone else's? When they choose the future over the fleeting present. Write in the comments which principle of long-term thinking you consider most important for the modern world. If this idea resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new stories about those who dare to think differently, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about how true power is built and its genuine cost. History has always remembered Niccolo Machiavelli as the author of a treatise where cynicism and pragmatism became synonyms for power. But what if I told you that his most chilling, most scandalous ideas aren't about kings and empires, but about each of us? About everyone who fights for their destiny daily. About those who strive for the invisible crown of personal sovereignty. Have you ever wondered what hidden strength slumbers within you? What price might be paid to take the reins of your life into your own hands? Today, we will lift the veil on how to become the master of your fate and see that the true drama unfolds not on battlefields, but in the depths of the human soul. Prepare to discover how to awaken your inner sovereign and why this might be the most dangerous, yet most liberating journey of your life. Watch until the end to understand what choice awaits you. And so, our epic odyssey through the labyrinths of Machiavellian thought has concluded. But is this truly the end? No, it is merely the antechamber, the very threshold of your own ascent. For everything we have explored is more than just knowledge. It is sharp blades, unseen shields, secret maps. Their true value will only be revealed when you dare to carry them onto the battlefield of your everyday life, day after day. Machiavelli, that titan of thought, created his immortal work, The Prince, as a harsh but truthful treatise for those who shape the destinies of kingdoms. But his brilliant insight lay elsewhere. He understood that each of us is a ruler, each governs their personal domain. The only question is, how do we do it? Do we become wise and far-sighted sovereigns? Or do we allow the whirlwind of external forces to ruthlessly control us, surrendering our lives to chance? And here begins the real drama, for everything depends on this choice. So who is this inner sovereign you are called to become? Forget the images of a ruthless despot or a cynical puppet master that the world paints for you. No, that is not him. This is a person who has accepted unwavering responsibility for every moment of their existence. One who does not seek blame externally, who does not rely on saviors from outside, and who surrenders not an inch of their sovereignty to anyone. This is a person whose strength is born from within. But what is the price of such power? This invisible ruler lives by unshakable principles, as if by the laws of their own empire, which we have carefully explored. This is liberation from the unseen chains of external approval that bind millions. It is the gaze of a predator, keenly spotting prey, hunting for opportunities instead of fleeing from the shadows of threats. It is an impenetrable shield of psychological invisibility that protects against any attempts at manipulation. And of course, it is an unbreakable will that stands like an unyielding rock in the face of the harshest trials. But this is just the beginning. What else is he capable of achieving? He inspires not the terror of a tyrant, but awe, that undeniable reverence born from consistently demonstrated, unwavering power of spirit. He leads his domain without a visible crown, relying on purity of intent and undeniable mastery. He possesses deep strategic patience. His gaze extends decades into the future, not limited by the immediate concerns of current days. He forges strong alliances based on genuine mutual benefit and authentic trust. He controls his personal narrative without resorting to deception or cunning tricks. He uses conscious solitude for profound reflection and meticulously plans strategic thinking. He resolves the most tangled conflicts with the precision of a skilled geometer, finding elegant solutions where others see only hopeless knots. And most importantly, he erects structures that will stand for centuries, creating a legacy whose value and influence only multiply with the passage of time. But do you think this path is strewn with roses? Oh no, this is not an easy path. It is thorny and harsh. It demands that you shed the shackles of convenient illusions about how the world truly works. It requires you to accept the full weight of responsibility for ultimate outcomes, not just good intentions. It demands that you become the hardest person to deceive, starting with the most difficult task, ceasing to lie to yourself. This is a battle that must be fought every day. But what awaits at its finish line? But it is precisely this path, however difficult, that leads to genuine freedom, incomparable and eternal. When you no longer need validation of your worth, external protection, or outside guidance, you become absolutely autonomous and self-sufficient. When you develop undeniable mastery in key areas, you gain an unshakable confidence that no one can ever take from you. When you forge a mighty character, you create an unyielding foundation for your entire life. And then you look back and see the chasm between yourself and those who wait. The world is filled with those who naively await external changes to make their lives better. They wait for wiser leaders, more favorable opportunities, more fortunate circumstances. But the inner sovereign, this wise strategist, understands. True change always originates within. And this knowledge is not new. It has been proven over centuries. Machiavelli himself lived in an era of profound political turbulence, where principalities constantly changed hands, conquered and lost in bloody whirlwinds. He observed with piercing clarity. Only those rulers who developed an unwavering inner strength, capable of flexibly adapting to any, even the most unpredictable, external circumstances, survived and prospered. And today, in the 21st century, we live in an equally turbulent, unpredictable time, where technology, economics, and society itself are restructuring with unprecedented speed. Machiavelli's lessons resonate more sharply today than ever since their creation, because the need for this inner fortress of spirit and far-sighted strategic thinking has reached its zenith. What will be your response to this challenge? Now you hold a map full of treasures. You have explored unknown expanses, comprehended profound principles. But what will you do with this knowledge? Your choice will determine whether this becomes merely another fleeting lecture that fades into oblivion in 7 days, or if it marks the beginning of an epic, fundamental transformation in how you live. Destiny awaits your decision. Your inner sovereign, your true ruler, yearns to be awakened. He has always been there, dormant beneath centuries of social conditioning and all-consuming fear. You possess a powerful force capable of rousing him. The only question is, does your soul have enough courage to do it? The invisible crown of personal sovereignty is within arm's reach. But like any true crown, it must be conquered in battle, not received as a gift. It must be earned by your every action, not just a fleeting desire. Start today, even with the smallest step, but start without delay. The world desperately needs more inner sovereigns, people who have embraced full responsibility for their lives and now radiate this powerful force, inspiring others to follow their example. Perhaps you stand at a crossroads right now. What if you never dared to take the reins of power into your own hands? What if you allowed circumstances and others' expectations to decide for you? Would that truly be your life, or merely a shadow of who you could have become? In your opinion, at what point does a person definitively lose control over their destiny? Or did they never truly gain it? Write in the comments which principle of the inner sovereign you find the most challenging to embody. If this story of the path to true freedom resonated with your heart, support it with a like. And to not miss new dramas and triumphs of the human spirit, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those who dared to become the ruler of their own lives, and the price they had to pay for it. Many of us dream of power, but what if the most terrifying battle for the throne unfolds not in palace intrigues, but in the depths of your own soul? What if the most cunning enemy is yourself? Today we will unveil a forgotten code that can either elevate you to the pinnacle of personal triumph or cast you into the abyss of self-deception. You will learn about the price of true dominion and why only a few dare to accept this challenge. Prepare for a story where each of us is both ruler and subject, and a hostage to our own fate. But who will emerge victorious in this eternal struggle? The great Machiavelli, concluding his immortal work, The Prince, addressed posterity with a fervent, almost desperate plea to unite the fragmented lands of Italy under the hand of a mighty and far-sighted leader. And now, centuries later, we too, like an echo of ancient sages, dare to utter an equally passionate call to unite each person's own life, to gather it together under the watchful eye of their inner sovereign. Imagine the greatest of all battles, the one each of us must endure, will unfold not on battlefields against external adversaries, not in the struggle for worldly possessions. Oh no, its arena is the hidden corners of the soul, and its goal is the final and irrevocable conquest of oneself. And this is not just an abstract dream. It is a real, tangible battle that a person is not only capable of, but obligated to bring to a triumphant conclusion. For the kingdom of their own being, their personal empire, awaits its rightful and worthy sovereign. Who is this ruler? It is none other than themselves, this person standing at a crossroads, but not their current, perhaps submissive and dependent self, but that majestic version of themselves they can become if they steadfastly adhere to the principles of strict discipline and conscious choice. The time has come to awaken from a centuries-long slumber, to cast off the shackles of doubt and indecision. The time has come to rise, to decisively step onto the throne of one's own life, which has long waited its rightful owner. And then, ascending this throne, they must rule not merely with force, but with the deepest wisdom, with the subtle art of strategy, and with that unyielding power inherent in true rulers of spirit. Many dream of power, but only a few are ready to accept the challenge of becoming the sovereign of their own lives. What do you think most often prevents a person from ascending this throne? What stops them in the face of themselves? Write in the comments which of these principles seems the most difficult for you to master. If this narrative touched your soul and inspired you to fight, support it with a like. And subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new stories about great achievements and the exorbitant price that sometimes must be paid for true dominion.